Welcome back to Women for Wealth. So today I want to briefly talk to you about what happens with the big D, or DIVORCE. So recently I had two men tell me that, they got divorced, their credit was shot, they've got no money, they've been ruined for a decade because she decided to have an affair, step out on the marriage, and she got everything. Well, that might have been true a long time ago. Today, that is not the case with divorces. You are not going to get a large sum of money, and you are not going to be able to maintain your lifestyle without working, without doing anything to change your budget and your situation if you get divorced. Now, I'm an advocate of staying married. I've been married to Thomas for 26 years. We raised 4 kids together. He jokingly says, at this point, we're too intertwined. We couldn't get divorced if we wanted to. And I think being intertwined with your partner is a good thing. Now, I'm not saying that divorce is never the right decision, because my husband has an ex-wife. He was married for 7 years. He will tell you he was miserable the entire 7 years that he was married. He actually went to a divorce lawyer. Then, before he was able to file for divorce, he found out that his first wife was pregnant with a third child, so he didn't go through with the divorce. But unfortunately, after the child was born, he ended up having an affair. She found out, she divorced him, and this was a long time ago, because like I said, Thomas and I have been married 26 years. I didn't meet Thomas until after he had been divorced and had relocated to South Carolina from Arkansas. So, I come in and he's got child support, alimony. He's got all these bills that have to be paid every month. And they had filed for bankruptcy before the divorce, so he had ruined his credit for the next 7 years or something, I don't know. So when I married him, he had more money taken out of his check than he made, and he had horrible credit. Now, I knew that I had good credit. I knew that no worries, I can handle this, but that was not a good situation for him to be in. I did hire him a lawyer, and he went back to court. The alimony was stopped, the child support was adjusted, and it ended up getting that amount that he had to pay out every month to 50% of his take-home pay instead of more than that. And that's still a lot of money. Half of your take-home pay going to someone else that you don't like and you're divorced from, that's tough. But he did have 3 kids, and as a parent, you have to support your kids. So while it was difficult on us financially, you got to take care of your kids. And so I understand that. But I'm just giving all of you women a word of caution. Be selective in who you pick as a life partner before you get married. If you can make it work, stay together, stay married. If you can't, understand that it will take a financial toll on your personal relationship with money. You are not going to have your husband's full income coming into the bank account for you to be able to utilize. At that point, you are going to get, honestly, you're probably not going to get alimony anymore. I personally don't think alimony is something that should be given to wives anymore, because wives are capable and able to work just like men are. So I don't think alimony is something that is necessarily needed at this point. I understand 50 years ago when women didn't work outside the home, they didn't have the skill set to get a job. I understand 50 years ago that alimony was a thing, and I got that. But in this day and age, understand that more than likely you're going to get 50% of the assets, and you're probably going to get child support, which, depending on who you talk to, child support is enough money to support the kid or not enough money to support the kid. Every wife I've ever talked to says child support isn't enough. It isn't enough for the kid to have, the iPhone, the Nike tennis shoes, the etc. and so forth. I kind of come from a different perspective. I'm like, look, child support should be used to make sure the children have a roof over their head, they're safe, they've got food, they've got medical, they're physically, emotionally, and mentally well taken care of. I never bought my kids brand name stuff. I never spoiled them like that. I don't think it's a necessity for every kid to get an iPhone when they're 9 years old or 10 years old or whatever age your kid is, or, Kid X, we'll say. This was, as I say, top of mind for me because it just came up recently. Now, these were men complaining about this to me, but I was like, I probably need to do almost like a PSA for women that says, look, if you want to achieve wealth, try to stay in your marriage. Now, I understand, again, divorce is something that sometimes is a necessity. If you are being physically or emotionally abused, or your children are being physically or emotionally abused, please leave today, seek help. There are women's centers where you can go that will give you a place to stay, that will give you food, they will put you in touch with the right family services departments to get you help. Do not stay in a situation where you're being abused. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you're in a situation where maybe I don't like that person anymore, or these little pet peeves are starting to really grate on my nerves, look for ways to reconnect. Maybe you go to counseling. Maybe you go talk to your pastor at church. I don't know. I'm just saying that it's easier, in my opinion, to become wealthy if you stay married and you keep two incomes coming in. I'm not saying women have to have a career like I did, but at least a side hustle. Have some money coming in. And another piece of advice that I have for women is have a separate savings account that's just in your name that your husband doesn't know about. I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know Dave Ramsey disagrees with this. I got married to my husband, and the same week that we got married, I opened up a bank account at a separate bank. So we had a joint account for the family, money coming in and family expenses. I opened up a separate personal account at a different bank. Only my name was on the account. His name was not on it. He did not know that I owned it. It was a small amount, but direct deposit from my paycheck every 2 weeks when I got paid. A very small amount went into my personal savings account. Now, 20 years into the marriage, I didn't need that account anymore. I knew we were going to stay married. I closed the account. 100% of our funds go together. We decide together as a couple, as a partnership, how we're going to spend those funds, what we're going to do with it, how we're going to invest. But let me tell you, the peace of mind and the security to know that if all hell broke loose, and I didn't anticipate that, but if it did, the Boy Scouts, be prepared. I had some money set aside that was in an account. He didn't know about it. He couldn't access it. So I knew that if things got bad and we ended up not together, myself and my son would be okay. I had money set aside that we could utilize until we stabilized. So I do recommend, especially if you're in a situation where you're not sure if this is going to work long term, have some security for yourself and your kids. Have a little bit of money set aside for yourself and your kids that your husband cannot access. You hear it all the time. Somebody decides that they're going to leave a spouse and get divorced, and they go and clean out the bank account, and then they go and pack their bags. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Total disclaimer, Thomas and I were separated at one point. When we got separated, he actually moved in and was living with his mistress. During that time frame, he had his money, I had my money, and some money did go into the joint account so that I could pay the mortgage and the light bills and things like that. But he had money he could live on. It wasn't like I took his entire paycheck and I used it to pay for my lifestyle. That is not the way it worked. So he had his money that he could utilize. Some of his income did come into the family joint account to pay for, like I said, the mortgage, the light bill, things like that. But I made sure that, I don't want to say it was fair and equitable, because it was a really bad, dark time in our marriage, and it's been a very long time ago. He lived with her for 9 months, and then he decided that he wanted to come back home. It was a challenging decision. I allowed him to move back in. I allowed him to come back home. We started working and rebuilding our relationship after that. I'm not going to say it was easy. I'm not going to say it was immediate. It took a long time. And ladies, I'm not going to tell you that it's the right thing for you to stay married if your husband has an affair. I do know a lot of women that are like, he had an affair, I'm getting divorced. I'm here to tell you, sad but true, a lot of men have affairs. If that is what you're going to give up your marriage and your family for, I don't know. I mean, for me, it just wasn't enough. So I chose to stay married, work it out, do the hard work, stay committed, do what was right, what I felt was best for my family long term. And I do know other women that have stayed after their husbands have had affairs. Again, it's not easy, but I've seen it work out for other women too long term. So just think about it. Pray about it. Seek counsel. Ask. Don't ask your single lady friends, because I'll be honest with you, I have sat back and I have watched. If one lady gets divorced, she starts telling all of her immediate friends how great life is being single and how much she loves the single life. And then one or two other ladies within that friend group will end up divorced with her. And let me tell you, the grass is not greener. The grass is greener where you water it and you fertilize it, not on the other side of the fence. So don't get trapped in this thought process of, oh, that sounds great. That sounds like a wonderful life. And it might be for her, but it might not be for you. If there's ever a theme throughout this channel that I want you to pick up on, it's do what's best for you. Don't do what other people tell you to do. Don't do what you think society expects you to do. Do what's right and what's best for you and your circumstances and your family at that particular point. Anyway, I hope all of you have wonderful, happy, wonderful families and marriages, and that you and your husband are committed and have a strong partnership. But just wanted to give you kind of a heads up. If you don't be aware that you're not necessarily going to get the amount of alimony and child support that you think you might deserve or you think you might have earned. Child support now is a calculation for most courts. You can Google most county child support calculations and you can go in, put the numbers in, and it'll tell you what you're going to get based on the number of children, your income, his income, various things like that. So, do your research. Be aware, be knowledgeable before you make your decision. Have all the input, because decisions are only as good as the accuracy and the amount of information you have. If you don't have all the information or you don't have accurate information, you will never make a good decision. So do your research, get all the information, get all the data, then make your decision. And regardless of what you do, I'm here, I'm praying for you, I'm trying to support you. If you have questions, comments, leave them below. I will try to respond to them. Thank you so much.